right, hello out there again. This is Beck Barnes and Jim Steadman coming at you with the world-famous Cotton Companion podcast here this fourth week of April. It is the post-Easter week. This is actually today as we pod is the Monday after Easter. So y'all will have to forgive me as I'm in my Reese's Easter Bunny Egg hangover. Those things are too addictive, and I generally hurt myself whenever I get around too many of them. So forgive me for that. But whether you are in California or the Carolinas or at any point in between the Pacific and Atlantic in the great American Cotton Belt, we want to welcome you back. I am joined today, as always, by my partner in crime, Cotton Growers Senior Editor, Mr. Jim Steadman. Howdy, Jim.
Hello, Beck. And at our house for Easter, it was always the caraway cream eggs.
Ooh.
Were always the big hit. But I've fortunately stayed away from them. So
Good for you. Good discipline there. I can. It's truly addictive. The Reese's. I will ride until I go to my grave. I will ride for the Reese's Easter egg little candies.
And I'm kind of there with you. And I think the only reason I didn't get involved too much with the caraways is because they were gone before I could steal them.
You got a few extra mouths around the house that are putting a dent in your takeaway.
Absolutely.
So before we get started here, we do want to have a quick word from our sponsor of today's episode, which is Enlist.
This episode of Cotton Companion is brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. Ready to help you control tough weeds with 2,4-D choline featuring inherent low volatility.
Okay, so we know y'all are preparing to plant out there as this weather is warming up. It's as we pod, it is a beautiful day here in Memphis. In the 70s going to be. Rain is nowhere in the forecast, finally. Here in the Mid-South, here are in the farming communities near Memphis, we know that it has been insanely wet. I had a buddy recently tell me that he texted me, he said that he's had 80 inches of rain since October on his place, which is just amazing to me. And I've seen other farmers, our good friend Sledge Taylor, former Achievement Award winner, posted some similar just jaw-dropping numbers of the amount of rainfall that you guys have had in the Mississippi Delta, and I'm sure over in the Arkansas Delta as well. So, bless y'all's soggy, wet hearts. We know that it wouldn't be a production season if we weren't having some weird weather happening somewhere out there. It's always a different curveball, it feels like, as each season approaches. So we're thinking about y'all. We hope it dries up. We know that y'all are starting to look at those planting windows. And so, we'll be hoping and praying for best possible conditions for y'all from here on out. We got a great episode today. We're doing things a little differently. We're going to bring you a more streamlined version of our news segment, but it's going to be as informative as it always is. And then we're going to have a Market Minute update with our good old friend, Dr. O.A. Cleveland, analyzing all those bulls and bears out there in the market. And then finally, we're going to wrap things up, as always, in our One Big Thing segment. One Big Thing, not One Big Theme segment, where we are going to be talking sustainability, if I'm not mistaken there.
That's correct.
So, we got a great episode, and we kind of rearranged our order here on the podcast. We are now going to bring y'all a brief custom content segment featuring our own Cotton Grower custom content editor, Miss Robin Sichtberg, as she recently sat down and spoke with Enlist technology specialist Haley Neighbors. So we are happy to bring you that custom interview right now.
Hello, I'm Robin Sichtberg, Custom Content Editor at Meister Media Worldwide, the publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. I'm here with Haley Neighbors, who is the new technology specialist with Enlist, to talk about the Enlist Weed Control System. So welcome back to the program, Haley.
Thanks, Robin.
I know some of the growers out there have been experiencing some spring weather delays, and I was wondering how that might impact weed control efforts.
Well, I think weather delays can be extremely frustrating for cotton farmers, right? They're extremely anxious to get into the fields because they want to get that crop in and get it off to a good start. So it can be really tempting to try to find shortcuts, primarily with weed control in the scramble of trying to get things planted. But I think early season weed control is extremely important to help that late planted crop get up and get established.
Okay. And I know residuals are important, and why are they so important?
Residuals are extremely important to get in there and get those weeds knocked down early, because pre-emergence herbicides can really help us keep those weeds in a more manageable window. So if we can keep those weeds in that 4 to 6 inch height that we recommend, we're going to be seeing better control from our post-emergence herbicides such as Enlist Duo or Enlist One.
Okay, perfect. Well, I know some farmers are still going to have to use post-emergence applications of the Enlist herbicides, and what tips do you have for them?
Some of the tips that we've been talking about throughout preparing for application season is really making sure we're starting clean with effective burn down and a pre-emergence herbicide with some residual activity, because as I just mentioned, we're going to be better positioned to make timely, effective post-applications of the Enlist herbicide.
Okay, well, perfect. So where can growers find out more information?
For anybody looking for more information about the Enlist weed control system, they can do so by visiting our website, enlist.com, or they can follow us at Twitter @EnlistOnline.
All right, well, we've got to wrap up now, Haley, but I really appreciate you being on the program.
Thanks, Robin. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, we thank you, Robin, and thank you, Haley Neighbors, of our sponsor, Enlist. And without further ado, I want to turn things over to Jim here, who is going to lead us in a focused discussion of all the news of the day. So go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Beck. We're going to go through, like he said, we're going to go through these news items fairly quickly because, again, if you want more detail on any of these, you can certainly go to cottongrower.com and find more details and links to additional information. First of all, USDA has announced the Commodity Credit Corporation of USDA has announced the 2019 crop loan rate differentials for upland and for the extra long staple cotton. These differentials, which are also known as loan rate premiums and discounts, have been calculated based on market valuations of various cotton quality factors for the prior 3 years. The calculation procedure is identical to that used in past years, with 2 exceptions for 2019. Upland cotton now has a reduced discount applied to color white leaf 8 upland cotton, and a new plastic extraneous matter category has also been added for upland. And then ranges for extra long staple length discounts have changed from prior years. So the differential schedules applied to this year are 52 cents per pound for the base grade of upland cotton and 95 cents a pound for extra long staple cotton. These rates, along with rates for other commodities, you can certainly find posted on the Farm Service Agency website. And we suggest if you have questions, that would be the place to go. Next, we've got a new dicamba herbicide in the market, moving into the market this year. Tavium Plus Vapor Grip technology from Syngenta has received registration from US EPA for use in cotton and soybeans. According to the company, Tavium is the market's first pre-mix dicamba herbicide containing built-in residual control to help manage resistant weeds and help keep fields clean through the season. The product will be available for the 2019 growing season, subject, of course, to final state approvals, and 8 Cotton Belt states have already granted those approvals, so you should be in good shape. I think others are coming pretty quickly from what we understand.
Other
state approvals.
State approvals, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tavium can be used pre-plant, at planting, or early post-emergence on, obviously, XtendFlex cotton and on Roundup Ready to extend soybeans. So there's more details and links to the product webpage and the article about this, again, on cottongrower.com.
Yeah. Always love to see a new product enter the market. From our standpoint, we know from y'all's standpoint, without going too deep into this, we know that 30 years ago, there were a lot more products available to y'all, and so more diverse options for you is a good thing for the farmer. You guys have more choices, and you're able to call your own shots there. So happy to see Syngenta enter that cotton herbicide market.
Absolutely, and I think the state weed specialists have been working with this, obviously, and are factoring it into their recommendations for this year, exactly into which window it best fits as we move into planting and application season. Next item, it's been a very popular piece of information since we posted this on cottongrower.com and also seen it on other news outlets as well on April 18th. But Wrangler our friends, the friendly jeans folks, have created the Wrangler Rooted collection. It's a limited premium line made from 100% sustainable, traceable to the farm cotton. And each piece is grown, milled, cut, and sewn here in the U.S., strictly a U.S. product. Now, this collection features 5 state-specific pairs of jeans, 2 of which, the Alabama jean and the Texas jean, are already immediately available. 3 others, the Georgia jean, North Carolina jean, and Tennessee jean, will be available this summer. And the reason they're named this way is the cotton used in each of these jeans is traceable to a family farm in each of those states, which were the first growers participating in the Wrangler Science and Conservation Program to promote stewardship and soil health as part of the company's sustainability initiative. Each state jean or each state design will include a unique wash finish, plus trim and patch details that feature the state's silhouette. The collection is also going to include 2 t-shirt designs for each state and 3 national designs for the t-shirts. Wrangler's part of Wrangler's overall goal to source 100% of its cotton from farms using land stewardship practices by 2015. Now, the social media response to this within the cotton industry has been highly positive and nothing short of almost phenomenal. This Wrangler Rooted collection is initially available through Wrangler.com and through certain participating retailers. And you can find pricing and other details at Wrangler.com, or just follow the links in the article that you'll find posted on cottongrower.com.
A neat deal. To be totally honest with y'all, when I first heard about this, I'm interested in it. I like the idea of having the state silhouette on I guess it would be on the back leather patch.
On the back leather patch and also on the button in front.
Yeah, so that's super cool. Yeah, I mean, all of us in the Cotton Belt have a lot of state pride, whatever state we may be in. So, I'm interested in wearing one of those. I used to wear Wranglers when I was a cowboy. When I was a kid, I say I was a cowboy. I used to ride horses, and I would
when
wear
you
Wranglers.
Played cowboy.
Yeah, I was always a little. My stepdad was happy to remind me my rear end was a little too narrow, to put it in PC terms, to be wearing Wranglers a whole lot elsewhere. But they're great jeans, and I may go have to get me a new pair. I'd love to see them come out with I don't know if they have plans to do a Mississippi one. I'm from Mississippi, but I could go. I'm in Memphis now. So
well, I think one of the questions that popped up on social media was, why don't we have Arkansas jeans? Why don't we have Mississippi jeans? Well, part of it is there are no growers in those states yet participating as part of this science and conservation program that Wrangler has. Obviously, as more growers and as that program expands, I think the gene expansion will also occur.
Yeah, but a cool program, and
it is. It's a great
truly,
program.
I'm interested in it, and I bet it's going to take off.
Yeah, I think we'll both be shopping.
Yeah, it's going to be
absolutely. And finally, USDA has started its weekly crop progress reports again, and last week cotton made its first appearance on the list. So as of April 15th, 7% of the 2019 crop has been planted, and that's primarily thanks to Arizona, California, and the southern parts of Texas. Nothing unusual, from this timing. But there were also some very small percentages reported in Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma, no doubt for some very brave souls who just felt like they had to get out and get going while fields were drying out and perfect. So we'll obviously be watching these numbers each week, and we'll try our best to keep you up to date as the planters start rolling across the rest of the Cotton Belt.
Yeah, those guys who have planted right now will be the ones who inevitably, one of those ones down in South Texas, which they will be harvesting in mid to late June, and we'll run a story on it, and somebody up in the high plains or north of there in the upper Southwest will say, I'm still planting.
Or I'm just getting started.
Yeah. And so anyhow, good. We're good. Those, y'all will see the crop progress reports from here will be a staple in this podcast as we keep going forward, because that's interesting information.
Absolutely. But that's the news for this segment.
Very good. Jim, appreciate you as always. As we mentioned earlier, we recently, I'll go from one interview segment to another here. We recently had a good talk with our main man, Dr. O.A. Cleveland, a regular around these parts, be it at in-person events or on the podcast or in the pages of Cotton Grower Magazine. And Jim interviewed Dr. Cleveland. Jim, would you say the good doctor is bullish on 2019, or was he hedging his bets at the moment?
I would say OA is always as bullish as he can possibly be.
Yeah.
Even in the face of bearish conditions, he will always try to find that little spotlight of bullish activity to try to hang on to. I think right now, and what you'll hear in the interview is the market can be bullish and bearish depending on your total perspective at this point. And I think he will point that out in the obviously in his comments. But I think the most important thing is right now it's a realistic approach, and he's got some recommendations for growers if they're watching the market and want to know when they need to start pricing and placing and setting hedges and getting ready for this year. So I think it's a good informative interview. He, as usual, even though we try to keep this to the market minute, it's in this case is 10 minutes plus.
There you go. Well, it's a man with that much knowledge to share. It's tough to rein him in, and so
it's impossible to rein him in.
So, all right, we're going to let him tell you how he feels himself in our Market Minute segment, which is coming at you right now.
Welcome to the Cotton Companions Market Minute for this episode. We're visiting today with Dr. O.A. Cleveland, Professor Emeritus of Ag Economics at Mississippi State University. O.A., it's been a while since we visited, so thanks for joining us again today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
I think the last time that we had a chance to talk was back in early March at the Mid-South Farm and Gin Show, and a lot of things have happened since then. We've had USDA release their prospective plantings report of 13.7 million acres. We've had an April supply and demand report that could either be bullish or bearish depending on your perspective. And planting season is getting off to a pretty wet, sloppy start throughout most of the cotton belt, although a lot of cotton has not gone in the ground at this point. Based on all of these things over the last few weeks, where may this year's cotton production be going, and kind of what are you hearing from the field right now?
Well, to touch base with that, let me just first come back and say, at the Gin Show back early March, late February, I was extremely bearish as I have been in a long, long time. I saw a number of factors that suggested that, but since then, the things you point out of the time that passed, and those very bearish things have influenced almost completely, it seems, and changed my attitude about this market completely. I'm a little bit optimistic, not wildly bullish, but a little bit bullish. I still think we have some upside potential. I think certainly the old crop July is trying to get to 82 cents, maybe 83 cents. The new crop Beck, I think is struggling mightily hard to get up above 79 cents and to push 80 cents. Now, whether or not it can get above 80 cents, it's certainly possible if the July goes up to 83, 84 cents, and that would be our absolutely top technical objective, and that could probably pull December at 81 cents or so. But before we get too involved in that, I'd just say I think 79 cents or north of 79 cents in December. I'm really ready to hit the price button 2 or 3 times, hit it hard, make it light up a bunch of times. The Chinese situation, all along we've talked about this. It's not about cotton. It's not about beans. It's not about agriculture, period. Agriculture got caught in the trap between the U.S. and China when China decided it wanted to start putting tariffs on ag goods. And so that introduced ag. From the U.S. perspective, the tariff situation, the embargo, or the tariff situation is totally about technology, and we can develop the various technological aspects of that, but that's what it's about. And so that gets resolved. That's going to happen. And once an announcement is made that we've come to a resolution, and it's probably much closer now than ever before, it's still China has a long history of not abiding by its trade agreements, totally ignoring them. So there will be a very significant caveat there that this trade tip could heat up again just as soon as it's announced it's over if China does not live up to it. So cotton is caught up in that. Somebody made a comment recently that July was right at 92 cents when the tariff was announced. And with it being just, less a little bit short of cents. There are a lot of things that have changed since that time. In fact, the fundamentals are very much the same. When USDA still said we're going to ship 15 million bales, that was the number then. We do have a decline in U.S. consumption, which would not play into that at all. It's just a shutdown of mills. It's a big white oak mill. We're still suffering from that in the Carolinas. But given the excessive moisture that's hit throughout the Mid-South, throughout the Southeast, even over into East Texas, that has this market extremely concerned. They're predicting the Mississippi River will not crest till it gets to the essentially the 1973 flood levels, and that's when cotton got up pretty close to $1. Now, absolutely no question based on a flood and water standpoint, I would say there's zero chance we get anywhere close to $1 on this particular flood. But it has the market nervous. It's what we say 2 or 3 times a year the market kills the crop. So right now what's going on, the market's kind of killing the crop. We'll miss some planting more than likely with these rains that keep coming. We'll have some lowland cotton land in the Mississippi River Basin that's not going to get planted. But at the same time, growers, the corn's out the door now. There may be a bag or two of corn that gets planted just because the rural farmers bought it. But cotton folks, they're switching what corn land they didn't get in. In some cases, it's a good bit in particular farms, but in some cases they got it in. But they're switching that land now to cotton. Beans are the odd man out. Growers, by and large, are going to do what they can do not to plant beans, so that means it's going to cotton. We could still end up with another 100,000 acres more than the USDA planting intentions report suggests, and that at 13.8 million acres, that is a very interesting year in planting intentions. The cotton grower report, Pat, y'all came out in Beltwide at 13.8. Most of us said that's too low. Y'all wrong.
I do remember those comments.
Yeah, and well, they were that we felt. It's just not acceptable, and it was based on the Texas number, and by and large. And the Cotton Council came out with a number, 14.2, 14.3, and said, finally, that's a real number. USDA planning intentions then come along and verify the cotton grower estimate. All 3 of those estimates historically have been pretty daggum good. So, but one of them's going to be an outlier this year, or one said it's going to be an outlier. And what's it going to be? I would guess it's going to be the council number, but who knows just yet. But it does show us that instead of looking at least the 23 million bale crop and potentially a record U.S. crop, even up above 24 million, and we're probably looking at a 21 million bale crop. If this rain doesn't let up, we're looking maybe 21 and a half to certainly well below 22 million. So all of a sudden this crop's gotten a lot smaller. So that's kept pressure under this market. The idea that this Chinese situation is going to be resolved adds pressure to the market. We're beginning to see the Chinese come in and buy cotton. We're seeing not only that when I say buy cotton, buying U.S. cotton, they're backed off of that. They do continue to buy Brazilian and Australian, African, but they are beginning now to buy some U.S. cotton. And they probably are going to have to end up buying around 800,000 bales of U.S. cotton, which is more than we would have thought a year ago. And they do have a substantial amount of cotton that they have to buy around the world. So that demand for their bales is strong, and that's going to keep a little bit of underpinning under this market to keep us active. Again, I would say it's based on the Chinese factor, the demand it creates, and the weather pressure this market is under right now. Now, coming 5th of June, first week of June, of course, we're counting on Memorial Day rains out on the high plains of Texas. It's unbelievable.
We may have the flood in the Mid-South by Memorial Day.
Exactly. I mean, I can remember walking through Cotton on July the 4th in the Mid-South saying this would never make it, and it turned out to be a record year to date. So, I always say what happens tomorrow, but we're starting to see a little bit of soil temperature dryness out in West Texas now, getting a few drought spots there. So they will, in fact, need their Memorial Day rain not a lot of volatility mixed in it right now, but we do see that the textile mills around the globe are inquiring almost every night. That tells us then that there's demand out there. It's just when are they going to pick it up? We're seeing a lot of open interest increase in December, but we're not seeing an open interest increase across the market per se, and that's a little bit troubling. But we're seeing some in December, certainly seeing it in July, but the July open interest increase is coming from selling May as May's getting ready to give way. I'm still very positive this market. I do would say again, we're struggling to get December above 78 cents. We're getting right up there in sale. I think touching 78 cents is going to push us pretty quickly toward the 79 cent level. And to me, we start getting to 79 cents, and I'm saying growers need to open up their order books and start looking some cotton and feed that market because it's hungry. I'd like to say wait to 80 cents, but I'm a little bit concerned about that.
If we get to 79 cents, or when we get to 79 cents, if I'm a grower, how much of my crop, what percentage of my crop should I go ahead and lock in at that?
I'm going to be at least 50%
At least
sold.
50%, okay.
Yeah, at my point, I would suggest to you probably go ahead and run up to about 70% sold at 79 cents. Yeah, I can build a case to take it on up into the 80s, but that says come August, late July, August, we're in a drought situation. But we've got a El Nino year, so we should have plenty of moisture in the growing region. So just by and large, it says we're still, whenever this crop gets planted, it should be a good crop. Abandonment should be reasonably small. So 79 cents looks pretty dead-gum top-heavy to me.
Sounds good. OA, thank you again, as always, for your time and your insight on the markets. We certainly appreciate you being with us today, and we'll be checking back in with you soon.
That was great. Remember to give that gift of time.
Will indeed. Thank you. We'll be right back with more of the Cotton Companion.
Okay, well, thank you to Dr. Cleveland. Thank you, Jim, for doing that interview there. So finally, we want to bring you our one big thing for this episode. And Jim, I believe it's something that I've hit on in the podcast before. I know I hit on it in was it April issue I did the sustainability story?
So sustainability story was in the April issue. Yes, indeed.
To remind me when I wrote the stories that I wrote. So sustainability is really having a moment in the cotton industry right now. And it seems as though a lot of the brands, the companies that play in our market are recognizing that. Certainly a lot of the associations that are involved in bolstering cotton demand are recognizing that our sustainability efforts, which to be sure, you cotton growers have been doing long before it was trendy, being good stewards, taking care of the land, cutting down on applications where you can. Suddenly that's very marketable quality. Consumers are starting to pick up on that, and so the brands that make clothes are picking up on it. And so all of that is a way to say you're going to hear a lot more about sustainability in 2019 and going forward. And so, Jim, I know that you have compiled some notes to that effect too. What are you hearing?
Well, let's again earlier in the podcast we talked about Wrangler and their Rooted collection using 100% sustainable cotton that traces back to the farms and as part of their science and conservation program, with the overall goal of sourcing 100% cotton from farms using land stewardship practices by 2025. Programs such as we've talked about in the past, programs like Cotton Leads and the Bitter Cotton Initiative have successfully provided some solid information on cotton sustainability to the textile supply chain for years. We understand that Soil Health Institute is now getting involved by kicking off a new sustainability initiative for soil health in conjunction with Wrangler and with Walmart. So as you see, we've got an awful lot of textile brands and retailers, as Beck mentioned, who are continuing to look for more standards and verification regarding cotton production. And it was really and truly, it's time to put a more consistent standardized measure for sustainability in place to help meet market needs. So a year or so ago, the National Cotton Council appointed a sustainability task force to gather information and answer questions based on the needs and requests that the supply chain was asking. That information in turn was used to develop some sustainability goals for the U.S. cotton industry to meet by the year 2025. And 6 goals were set for this program: a 13% increase in land use efficiency, a 50% reduction in soil loss, 18% increase in water use efficiency, 15% reduction in energy use, 39% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions, and a 30% increase in soil carbon. So out of that task force and out of those goals came the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol, which is now being launched by the National Cotton Council to help achieve and measure these ambitious goals. The program is a voluntary program. It requires enrollment by cotton producers. It's being developed as a user-friendly, website-based program that will allow enrolled growers to monitor their sustainability progress and eventually be able to compare their numbers with those within their geographic region and or compare what they're doing with the program throughout the entire cotton belt. The National Cotton Council has hired a gentleman named Ken Burton, who's been in the cotton business for 26 years. He joined the council in January to head up as executive director for the protocol. And I talked with Ken. I know Dr. Gary Adams has been out doing a lot of meetings and talking about this program, but the nuts and bolts are this, basically. The first step in this is enrollment. Producers are going to follow directions on the protocol website welcome screen that will provide basic information such as name, farm location, and cotton acreage. And they'll be asked to create a username and password that will allow them to log into the protocol site when needed. Second is a self-assessment covering 9 different categories, and it's soil health, nutrient management, water management, crop protection, harvest preparation, wildlife habitat, fiber quality, traceability, and farm management. And there are going to be a number of questions covering these topics for producers to answer one of 4 different ways. They can either answer it, I'm doing this now for most of my fields, I'm trying this on 1 or more of my fields, I will consider it in the next 3 years, or it just doesn't apply to my farming operation. After that self-assessment, enrolled growers must agree they're using a data tool, something like the field print calculator or another qualified data product to collect and monitor data for best management practices. And then finally, those who are enrolling will complete a statement of commitment to responsible production practices to help safety and environmental awareness and continuous improvement. There's a lot of working parts in this. It's been described to me as it sounds a little onerous in places, particularly when you get into answering the question, but it's going to be a very simple process. There will also be a second or third part verification put in place to help establish a transparency that the market is looking for. These verifiers, or people who will be verifying all this, will review the answers from producers to make sure the requirements of the protocol have been completed. This was all going to be done on a random sampling basis. And as Beck said, obviously, we're all going to be hearing a lot more about this during the year. The protocol website, the self-assessment questionnaire, and other details have been in continuous internal review for months. The next step plan is a pilot program with about 200 producers, likely beginning later this summer, to help evaluate and continue development of the protocol with the goal of officially launching it Cotton Belt wide in January of 2020.
Yeah, it's a great rundown of that program, Jim. And, ultimately what we're talking about here is making cotton more attractive to consumers who are very conscious of these things. And we can't do that unless we keep score, unless we take note of all the ways that we are being more environmentally sound, sustainable, better stewards of our land. And the good news is people are paying attention. The good news is we got a great story to tell. If people are paying attention, if they'll just listen to us, we'll tell them,
right?
Hey, we are kicking butt on this front, especially compared to our competitors, man-made fiber. I don't want to get too far off onto that discussion, but you're talking about pieces of clothing that do not biodegrade and will be out there clogging up the oceans and water systems for years and years and years to come. Cotton has the better story to tell there. We're natural. We biodegrade. Anyhow, I don't want to get into my tree-hugging diatribe there. But yeah, absolutely, we cannot tell. It's easier messaging to tell that story if you guys participate in this program that the council's rolling out and be a team player in that way. So,
and I think the key in all of this is when you get into it is developing consistent standards and measurements that can be used across the board in all cotton production, and regardless of the sustainability program, whether it's something that Wrangler's doing, whether it's something that Soil Health Institute, things Cotton Incorporated, everybody involved in this, we're at least putting some standardization in place.
Exactly. Yeah. Got to have an agreed upon standardization if you want to keep that score, like I was talking about. So, anyhow, Jim, I appreciate you leading that discussion right there. We want to pause, hear a very brief message from our sponsor, Enlist, and then I will be back to get you out of here.
Cotton farmers are learning that the Enlist weed control system foils their toughest weeds. Those who've planted phytogen cottonseed with the Enlist trait are able to use either Enlist 1 or Enlist Duo herbicide post-emergence to tackle tough weeds. Even with wet springs and delayed planting, cotton farmers can adopt a program approach using a burn down and residual herbicides, along with Enlist herbicides, to keep fields clean. Both Enlist herbicides contain 2,4-D choline. This form of 2,4-D features inherently low volatility to stay on target after application. In addition, soybean farmers can now plant Enlist E3 soybeans commercially. They'll get the same excellent weed control benefits in high-quality, high-yielding soybean varieties. So, whether you're planting cotton or soybeans, or both, take advantage of the exceptional weed control and on-target benefits of Enlist herbicides. Learn more at enlist.com.
So, all right, that's going to just about do it for the 46th installment of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank Dr. O.A. Cleveland for joining us, as always, so helpful, so available to us and to you guys. And he offers a great wealth of expertise, and we appreciate that. So, again, thank you, Dr. Cleveland. And we want to thank you, dear listeners, for joining us, as you always do. And also thanks to our episode sponsor, Enlist. If you like what you're hearing, by all means, tell your buddies about us. They can get to our podcast in 3 easy ways. The first is cottongrower.com/companion. You type that into your internet browser, and it will take you to a landing page where all 46 of these episodes are right there in front of you. You can choose by topic what you want to listen to. Second way to make sure you're hearing every episode of the Cotton Companion podcast, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you may be finding your podcast these days. Just search for Cotton Companion. You'll find us. The third and best way, in my opinion, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-news. You can do that by going to www.cottongrower.com/subscribe, and you will get a great e-newsletter that Jim works on, be hitting your mailbox like clockwork every Tuesday morning. So, finally, make sure you're following us on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter, and on Facebook you can find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine. We hope that you are enjoying our latest issue. Should be the April issue at this point. And we will be with you all production season. We're excited to get going just like you guys are. This podcast is produced by Mr. Tyler Hatch, who works at the mothership, Meister Media Worldwide in beautiful Willoughby, Ohio. My name is Beck Barnes, and I will be back with you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion. For now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Mr. Jim Steadman, we wish you all the best.
And he works all day. God made it fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cotton Companion. Visit Enlist.com to learn more about the Enlist weed control system and to hear from farmers experiencing the technology.